Ready?
She's getting there.
We will now have the roll call, please.
Bobby Colson,
Here.
Ronnie Collier,
Here.
Adam Lewis,
Here.
Jeff Morris,
Here.
Howard Phillips.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Okay. The next is notice of meetings.
Yes, sir. This meeting's date, time, and location have been noticed on the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission's website, included as part of this year's meeting calendar since August 4th, 2014. Additionally, the agenda for this month's meeting has been posted on the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission's website since February 24th, 2015. This meeting has also been noticed on tn.gov's website.
I will have a review of the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda as printed.
Move to adopt the agenda. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it carried. The minutes from January the 5th, 2015. Everybody read?
We approve.
Second.
Moved and second, we approve the meetings from minutes from last meeting. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Education provider update with National Auction School.
Good morning. We had our West Tennessee CE seminar last Monday in Cordova outside of Memphis. We had an ice storm the night before, so attendance was low, but we had 30 auctioneers that took advantage of the seminar and came on out anyway. Our Middle Tennessee seminar is scheduled for May 5th here in Nashville at the Nelson Andrews Leadership Lodge up at Percy Priest Lake. It's a really great facility. It's a real state-of-the-art facility, and it's very convenient for everyone to get to, about 15 minutes off of I-24.
Thank you.
May. Now, where is
That's a
that?
Tuesday. At the Nelson, it's the Nelson Andrews Leadership Lodge, Commissioner Colson. It's adjacent to the Y,
Oh, okay.
up there on the lake.
Percy Priest Lake.
I know.
I believe that. He went fishing yesterday up there in a bass tournament, and it was 17 degrees.
It's cold.
His face is still red.
Fish didn't even want to come out of the water.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the lovely Ressa?
I was going to comment that I attended that conference in Memphis, and even though the facility lacked a little bit, but it was a pretty place, but just needs some management as far as their AV is concerned. But the guys did a really good job and had a good turnout, and I was glad to see some people from other parts of Tennessee come down to Memphis and enjoy that. And I was there for most of it, but it was a good day.
Commissioner Morris, we did actually had a licensee from East Tennessee and a couple from Middle Tennessee that came in for that seminar. So, which happens pretty much every time. So,
There you go.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. The next thing on the agenda is a legal report. We're ready, I guess. Well, we need to be ready.
You need to be ready because it's going to be exciting. Tab 2. Okay.
Before you start, I'm going to recuse myself from being any involvement in item number 1.
Okay. Thank you. Is everybody on tab 2?
Yes, ma'am. Finally.
Okay, good. Okay. Item number 1, 2014-026691. A complaint was filed by a consumer and alleged errors in respondent's auction report. Complainant wanted to make a claim against respondent's E&O insurance. Complainant alleged that respondent recently represented complainant in a court-ordered auction of her jointly owned marital property to dispose of the property to settle a divorce. Complainant alleged the error in the report to the court damaged her financially, and now the auction report is in the court record. Complainant alleged that respondent violated his fiduciary duty to her and the courts by reporting that she, as the previous occupant of the house, was the subject of a utilities theft investigation. Complainant states that this allegation in the report is completely false and defamatory. Complainant also alleged that she received a bill for utilities that she never authorized to be turned on at the residence in her name. Complainant alleges respondent used her identity and account number to get the utilities turned on without her permission. Complainant then alleges that respondent is guilty of utility theft by using her information to turn on the utilities, then telling the court that they were in respondent's name. Complainant also questions the criteria respondent used in coming up with his starting asking price on the property. Respondent sent a response to the complaint stating that he was, in fact, appointed by the court to sell a home for complainant at auction. In preparation for the inspections, respondent stated he had to have the utilities turned on, and during his visit to the utility company, he found that they had no record of the utilities being on for a number of years, and a utility fraud case had been opened for the subject property address. Respondent then offered to put the utilities in the account in his name and showed the representative a copy of the court order to sell the property, so the utility company agreed to turn on the services. Respondent stated the facts that were reported to the court are substantiated by the records from the utility company which were provided for the complaint file. It appears from the records in the file that the utility bill is in respondent's name and respondent paid for it. Respondent also stated that the selling price of the subject property was approved by the court. The complainant's allegations concern matters outside the jurisdiction of the Auctioneer Commission. It was found that respondent did not omit any necessary items with regard to the sale of the property in terms of his professional capacity and did not commit a misrepresentation with regard to the sale of the property. As such, counsel recommends this matter be closed with no further action.
Any discussion?
I wouldn't, unless somebody else got something to say, I'd move to go with legal's recommendation.
Been moved in second to accept council's recommendation. Dismiss. Was that it? No further, close with no further action. Thank you.
We got to vote.
Oh, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We had one,
Record will reflect that Mr. Morris abstained.
yeah.
All right, item number 2, 2014017891. This matter is being represented from the January 2015 commission meeting, at which time the commission voted to defer the matter until the next commission meeting and requested that further information be obtained regarding what was advertised to complainant and who the auctioneer was in the matter. The facts as presented at the previous meeting are as follows. Do you guys want me to read that to you out loud, or do you just want to take a minute to read it? You've already seen it once, but we did an investigation after you saw it. Okay, I'll just give you a few minutes to read over. The italicized part is what was from the last meeting that you guys have already seen, and then I'll add the new stuff.
Have we read it?
Okay.
I think we've read it twice.
Okay, good. That's good.
We read it last time, didn't we?
Right. So after the previous commission meeting, legal counsel requested an investigation of respondent, specifically requesting information as to who the auctioneer was for the sale, during which the $2.50 gold piece and 18-karat gold ring were sold. In addition, the investigation specifically centered around how the gold piece was represented at the auction, as well as how it was advertised prior to the auction. The investigation found that respondent had a valid firm license and a valid gallery license. The auction is owned by an individual who has a valid auctioneer license, and the auctioneer for the sales in question also had a valid auctioneer license. The $2.50 piece was sold for $225 according to the invoice. The gold piece was photographed and advertised at auctionzip.com. That was the only advertisement for this item. It was advertised as a $2.50 gold piece. Respondent owners stated it was their policy to announce at all auctions that all sales were with no warranties, no guarantees, all items sold as is, where is, all sales final, you be the judge. He further advised bidders are encouraged to come and inspect the item up for bid. As a matter of policy, it is announced the auction does not know the authenticity of any item. The buyer must be the judge. The 18-karat gold ring sold for $37.50. According to information obtained in the affidavit, there was no advertisement of any of the rings sold, which include the subject ring. Respondent owner recalled the ring was announced as the ring is stamped 18-karat gold ring. We don't know if it is or not. You be the judge. In regards to the consignee for both items in question, the consignees were not willing to refund the sales amount. He was informed the rings were purchased through an estate auction and had no knowledge of their authenticity. The consignor of the gold piece coin did not have any comment other than he would not offer to refund the purchase. It was stated they do not appraise or promise specific value of auction items. The previous recommendation back in January was to dismiss, but then you guys asked for further information. So at this time, I think that the recommendation should just be to discuss what you think in this.
I have a problem with this.
Okay?
He advertises a $2.50 gold piece. You paid $265 or something for it. If any of us put ourselves in the place of this consumer who went to the auction to spend his money, although you say at every auction that everything is sold as is, where he is, with no warranties and no guarantees, and all of us know that we're not a bunch of crooks that are out to beat people out of $2.50 gold pieces. The guy evidently sold a counterfeit gold piece to a buyer, and if it is counterfeit, number one, it's against the law, I believe, to sell counterfeit gold. I'm sure it is if you represent it to be a $2.50 gold piece. And having said that, I'd like to hear what somebody else has to say. This is the greatest way in the world to give the auction business a black eye.
I think if they advertise it as a $2.50 gold piece, which it seems that they did, of course, I don't know what a $2.50 gold piece would worth. $225, I guess. But it ought to be a $2.50 gold piece.
I would weigh in just to say I agree with both the gentlemen that we try our best to make sure when we sell jewelry or any sort of valuable metal piece that we authenticate it as best we can, even go as far as testing it to make sure it's tested out to be gold. We take it upon ourselves to make that, and so that when we get up on the block, we can represent it as being what it is. The fact that they say, well, you be the judge, that ain't enough. You know, I think we ought to fine them and whatever it is we can do to help make this right.
It sounds like some of that stuff that we get it. They'll mail in a box of coins and jewelry and stuff from somewhere, and no telling where, and sell it, and you send them a check. But we tell people this is just stuff. We don't know what it is. It's costume jewelry. It's whatever. and sell it and go on, but
But we're
when
talking
you
about-
say it's a $2 to $2.50 gold piece, that's different.
We're talking about an
To me.
advertised $2.50 gold piece.
Right.
They should have just said, goldish looking coin, if they didn't know. So my recommendation, and I'd make the motion that we, fine them whatever we can fine them. I don't know what the statute is on it, but I just don't think it's right. We need to do something.
There's a statute 6219-112. Says the commission may suspend, revoke, or refuse to renew a license issued under this chapter for the following causes. And B1 states making any substantial misrepresentation. Fall under that.
Oh, can we direct them to make it right with the consumer?
I don't know
I
that there's-
don't know if there's a way to do that or not.
Know that we have that power.
We would just do that by means of a consent order. That would be, I guess, our way of.
Then I would make it my motion that we give them a consent order that we find it to be, a violation, and they need to make it right with the consumer out of his own pocket. And that be, if they don't, then we can issue them a fine, or they can come before us and testify in a formal hearing.
How much is the fine plus the consent order to give the refund for the
I don't
gold?
know. I mean, I'm not so worried about us getting a fine for us, but I think they need to make it right with the consumer.
Agree with you, Commissioner, 100%. Will somebody make,
I just made that in form of a motion.
but you didn't put a dollar amount?
They need to refund the consumer the full amount of the bid plus buyer's premium, and show proof of that. That's part of our consent order.
Did anybody else?
Or pay a $1,000 fine.
I would like to, can I amend your,
Go ahead.
I would like to amend it to send them an order to refund the consumer's money and pay a $1,000 fine for advertising violation.
We'll amend that motion to read that way then. Need
There a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Do we have the motion? Do you have it down, ready to go? Okay.
I just want to make sure I get the right rule on there.
Take your time.
Thank you.
This is something we haven't done before, and I just want to make sure we do it right.
Absolutely.
Is a refund
Yeah,
and a $1,000 fine?
Yes,
There's a rule 0160-01-.20 says false, deceptive, misleading, or untruthful advertising is expressly prohibited. Any advertisement or advertising shall be deemed to be false, deceptive, misleading, or untruthful if it, an A section says contains a misrepresentation of fact. Or B is misleading or deceptive because in its content or in the context in which it is presented, it makes only a partial disclosure of relevant facts.
I think this falls into both of those categories.
A and B. Yeah, we'll probably just include section 2 because I think that it could be. All right, so we're going on Rule 0160-01-.20, section 2, for false, deceptive, misleading, and untruthful advertising. Okay. And you said $1,000 fine.
Yes. Or they can come before us and do a formal hearing.
Okay, we'll have a vote. You want to do a roll call vote? Okay. Right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Do you send the consumer a letter of what happened?
Yes, once the matter is closed, the consumer would receive a letter. They will not receive it at the point of the consent order being issued.
Right.
But once the matter is closed,
If they did, I mean, if they contact us about
yes,
it,
we
though,
will certainly,
tell them.
we will certainly update them, but
They don't really get an official letter until it's been taken care of and it's closed. But if they were to contact happened in this situation, then we would tell them about the consent order.
But that could be a year down the road, right?
It could be. We hope not, but it could
Well,
be.
but my thought is, here's a guy that's madder than an old wet hen, I'm sure, I would be. And he's out here talking about how bad auctions are. Well, we're not that bad, you know, and I just think that he should be notified that the matter, what happened.
we can
Updated.
provide him with an update, but
Updated.
Update, okay.
provide him with an update, but we need to be clear that we've offered this to him as a settlement. This does not mean he will
Right.
get his money back, because
Right.
the person has the choice as to whether they want to sign and agree to the consent order.
I understand, but at
So
least,
I want to be very cautious as to not, in a way, false hope that the gentleman will get his money back, because the person may still choose to go forward with the.
Right, we can provide an update, but we can't tell him for sure that the respondent is going to come through and do what the consent orders.
Provide them an update if they ask, right? We're not, there's no contact until it's paid or closed.
If for some reason you want us to provide an update, we can. It's not a big deal.
I'd like for you to provide an update. I try to look at myself on both sides of the ball field. And if I'm sitting out there and I got ripped off and the auctioneer commission is trying to do something about it, I would be very appreciative if you just let me know whether you ever got done or not,
Okay.
that you at least are trying.
Okay.
Good public relations.
That's what I'm trying to say. Okay.
All right. Item number 3, 2014028631. Complainant alleges that items consigned at an auction were taken to a gallery without the consignor's consent and that the gallery is operating on an expired license. Complainant is a former business partner of respondent. Respondent filed a response denying the allegations that he gave some items to a local store owner just after the subject auction took place. Respondent stated he had the express permission of the item's owner to handle the item as respondent handled it, in spite of complainant's false claim to the contrary. The item in question is a dining room table with 2 leaves. Respondent stated that complainant, a former business partner, concocted the complaint against him in a misguided attempt to extract unearned and unjust compensation from respondent, and also to attempt to extricate himself from business obligations still owing a third party for the acquisition of the subject business. Complainant did not provide sufficient proof of a violation in this matter that would warrant disciplinary action against respondent. In addition, respondent is properly licensed with the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission. As such, council recommends this matter be closed with no further action.
Is there any discussion?
Well, it just sounds like a couple of guys getting mad at one another and they trying to file a complaint against them to try
That's
to make
exactly
something
what-
tough. And so I recommend that we make the motion that we accept legal's recommendation and close it with no further action.
Second.
Been moved and second, take council's recommendation and dismiss. All in favor, aye.
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 Item 4, 2014029491. Complainant alleges that respondent is not a licensed firm, but that it is conducting online auctions and doing business in Tennessee. Complainant stated respondent recently held an inspection. Please join us for the preview at subject location on Tuesday, October 28, 2014, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time. Full details could be viewed via website, and respondent talked about extend bidding as per their terms and conditions. Complainant states that the public is in no way protected under the law from this unlicensed respondent. Respondent filed a response stating that it falls under the exemption in TCA 6219-103A. Respondent states that the licensure requirement does not apply to any fixed price or timed listings that allow bidding on an internet website, but that do not constitute a simulcast of a live auction. Respondent states that since its website does not simulcast live auctions, its online estate and personal property sales fall within this exemption. Therefore, complainant's complaint is without merit. Legal counsel reviewed the documentation in the file, and under respondent's terms and conditions, there is a section titled Deadlines and Close of Internet Bidding. This section states that all online sales will feature our automatic extension system. If an item receives a bid within the last 5 minutes, the close time will be extended 5 minutes from the time the bid is placed. The time will continue to be extended for 5 minutes with each newly placed bid, and the item will not close until 5 minutes have elapsed with no additional bid activity. According to the terms and conditions in respondent's website advertisement, all online sales feature extended bidding. Thus, respondent would not fall under the exemption in TCA 6219-103A for fixed price or timed listings. As such, counsel recommends the authorization of a civil penalty in the amount of $500 to be satisfied within 30 days of execution of the order.
Mr. Chairman, this is exactly the kind of thing that we've been battling for a number of years. I am the president of NOLA, which is the licensed law organization nationwide. At every single meeting, this subject comes up. People that are trying to conduct auctions without license, they use the quote-unquote under the guise of an online auction. We have one little loophole in our law that gives us some jurisdiction over these things, and that is the extension of time, which constitutes a live auction. And I think we ought to do whatever we possibly can to stop this type of activity unless they're going to be a licensed auctioneer. And so whatever the maximum penalty is allowed under the law, we need to do it.
$1,000.
I recommend that, whatever it is.
Okay.
Because, I mean, this is exactly what we're trying to stop.
And to be consistent, we just fined somebody a couple of months ago $1,000 for the same thing. And the Attorney General ruled that you cannot extend an auction if you don't have a license online. So,
Hold on just a second. Let me check one thing. I don't want to misspeak. What about this?
And it's per occurrence. So if they've got 100 items that are being extended, it's per occurrence.
Sorry, it is 1,000. But yes, it can be per occurrence.
you know how many occurrences?
Are you saying would you do it per
Well, I mean, I don't, I mean, if they had 100 items, I'm not going to fine them $100,000, but I'm just saying it needs to be a stiff enough penalty that it's not just $1,000 and they get a free pass, because that's what we're seeing is that they will operate without a license, know they're going to get fined, pay the fine, and just use it as a cost of doing business without having to go get a license. And so I don't know how many items they sold, but I think we need to kind of know that.
I know that the website advertisement, it's in the online file. I don't have the actual paper copy
Right.
of the file. If you want us to go and print that out, I can certainly do that.
Well,
I don't recall it being a long list of items.
Well, how about how many different auctions? Did they have more than one auction on there?
No, I believe it was just for this one particular October.
What, in
28th,
October?
4 to 7. I believe that's the only website advertisement we have in the file.
They didn't mention how many any items or anything on
But,
there.
and doesn't part of this need to be a cease and desist?
I don't think we have the authority to do that.
And we can put cease and desist language in the consent order.
Okay.
But they're not under our jurisdiction.
True. I mean, they're not licensed, but. But
I don't even know if they'll say, well, how are you going to make us pay the penalty?
Well, but we can still include cease and desist language. I mean, that would be the reason for putting it in there would be you need to stop because you're not licensed.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem doing that.
Well, can we monitor their website, and if they've got one coming up, to make sure that they're not continuing to do this?
We could probably have an investigator do that if you guys wanted to. If you guys wanted to have that monitored, it would be the investigator that would be in charge of
Do we
that.
know what kind of personal property it was? Was it just estate stuff, or, okay.
My memory serves me correctly, this was in October.
Right.
When it would,
It says here it was in October.
Right, and I
Yeah.
don't recall there being that many items listed on the advertisement. I don't recall it being a long list of.
Right.
in my mind, I'm thinking like 2 or 3 things.
Well, look, I'll make make it easy. I would say that we have the ability to fine up to $1,000 per occurrence.
Correct.
So I'm going to say that it had at least 5 items. So I'm going to say $500 per occurrence. There'd be a fine of $2,500, a cease and desist order, and to have an investigator monitor their website to see if any further activity is going on, and to bring it to the commission's attention if it is.
Okay.
I make that in the form of a motion.
Okay, I have a suggestion. It might be better if you phrase it as $1,000 per item, and then when I check back and count the items before we just say 5, because there might not be 5.
Okay.
I don't want to do something that we don't have proof of.
All right.
So if you want to say $1,000 per, and then I can go back
Oh,
and
I'd
check
say
that.
$1,000 per item up to a maximum of $2,500.
Okay.
Just trying to get their attention, say, we need to go get a license in Tennessee if we're going to conduct an auction.
Amen.
That's my motion.
There's been a motion made
Second.
for $1,000 fine up to $2,500. The motion has been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Do we have it down? We ready?
We're ready. Oh, also, did you guys want investigators to do a follow-up?
Yeah, I want them to
Yes.
monitor
Okay.
their website to see if there's any further, and if we can stop them before they actually have the sale and say, look, you're having an illegal sale, you need to cease and desist.
Right, okay.
Do you happen to know how they advertise this online auction?
Just on the website, as far as I know. The website that they had the items listed on. Is that...
The reason I asked that question, I've seen these ads on TV and hear them on the radio and see them in the newspaper, and it's just like throwing cold water on the auctions. But now, thank goodness to Jeff and some others, things are starting to happen.
And I feel like the investigators are versed now in trying to stop the problem before it starts. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and also reminded me the citation process can also be used. So we're really trying to make this happen in a way that we can stop it before it starts. Because once the auction happens, then...
Right.
Okay. Item 5, 2014030411. A complaint was filed alleging that respondent was operating under an expired license. Complainant alleged that respondent has been conducting auctions every Monday and Friday for the past 2 years. Along with the complainant attached a copy of a business card alleged to have been used by respondent with the name of respondent's unlicensed firm. Complainant alleges that respondent operates auction houses at various locations. On or about December 17, 2014, an investigation of respondent was conducted by Rick Radcliffe, an investigator with the Department of Commerce and Insurance, to investigate whether or not unlicensed activity was taking place. During the investigation, respondent owner admitted to conducting a business under respondent's name. Respondent owner stated he had operated the business approximately 1 year before receiving a telephone call from an investigator with the Regulatory Boards Division. Thus, respondent owner admitted to operating respondent company for at least 1 year period while unlicensed. Respondent owner stated that up until that call, he was unaware that a license was required to sell his own items at auction. Respondent owner stated that his conversation with the investigator was on December 17, 2014, and he had closed respondent auction company effective December 19, 2014. Respondent owner informed the investigator they did not have any written records of transactions for respondent business that was conducted. On January 15, 2015, a supplemental investigation of respondent was conducted by Investigator Buckner, who met with a realtor and auctioneer licensed in Tennessee, who submitted a written affidavit stating that he attended an auction at respondent company in the early part of 2014. On January 29, 2015, the investigator made photographs of respondent's auction building. One shows the exterior of the building. The second photo shows a sign posted on the door announcing the business would reopen on February 2nd, 2015. Respondent currently remains unlicensed. Respondent admitted to operating for 1 year without a valid license to do so. As such, council recommends the authorization of a civil penalty in the amount of $1,000 for unlicensed activity to be satisfied within 30 days of execution of the order.
Well, I think that's pretty good if you can open up a license and operate for a year without a license and make all the money and get a $1,000 penalty. What do you
Small cost of doing business.
have any discussion?
Is that the max you can fine him?
That's
Well,
per occurrence.
Right.
Per current?
So if you
I mean,
had,
I don't know how many auctions he had.
he had 100 auctions if he did it twice a week for a year, so.
That's all, just a lot of money. Don't try to
1,000
calculate
would
it.
be excessive.
Sorry, I didn't talk into my mic.
Cheap way to get around it, but that's our maximum, right? Oh,
Problem is, we don't have any idea as to the size and the scope of these auctions as to how much money's involved. So it makes it, making these,
Or how many they
or how many they actually had and what kind of success, and, and he was selling his own stuff. I don't know if that means he was buying inventory and selling it at auction, or, I mean, there's a few holes in this story.
Right. Yeah, I think he was trying to make the claim that it was his own stuff, and so he didn't really see why it was a problem, but he was clearly advertising it, I
Yeah,
guess,
even if
as
it is your own
something else.
stuff, if you're in the business of selling
Right.
it, you still need a license. you
Right.
know.
Well, I think the main thing we need to concentrate on is getting it out of business.
I don't know how he plans on having another sale in February without a license. It takes a little bit longer than that to get a license.
We don't
He does not have an application with us, does he?
Correct.
do we know if that February 2nd sale took place?
14th.
14th, was it?
Well, it says it was gonna reopen on
I'm
February 2nd.
sorry, you're right, the reopening.
And no, I don't have the answer to that.
So we don't know if there have been any.
Right.
I don't know what the appropriate level of fine is, whether it be $1,000, $5,000, or what. What do y'all think?
How many sales took place in that year, do we know?
I don't know exactly. I mean, I guess if you wanted to
If you do the math, it's
try to
about-
rounds every Monday and Friday for a
Right.
year.
Well, I think that $2,500 has been the norm here today, and if somebody would make that motion and cease and desist and never be able to get a Tennessee auctioneer license.
He can get one. He just has to. That's what we want him to do. We want him to get a license.
No,
I don't know
Not
that-
have a sale till the essence.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to keep bodies from being able to conduct business. And, this is a free country. To be able to do that, we got to do it under the rules.
Have a license.
And just remember, you can always put cease and desist language in there. Sometimes
Right.
that motivates people to.
Right. Well, and
Sometimes.
that's what I would do. I'd say I would make the recommendation, or not to the board here, that we do the $2,500 fine and cease and desist until he gets a license. Tell him just, all you got to do is file and go take the course and, do what's required like all the rest of
It's like
us.
everybody else.
I'll second.
Been moved in second. The motion for a penalty of $2,500 and cease and desist until he gets properly licensed. Is that correct?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, item 6, 2014029471. A complaint was filed alleging that respondent is not properly licensed to auction real estate. Complainant states that respondent does not hold a real estate license in Tennessee and is thus not permitted to auction real estate. Respondent filed a response stating that respondent is properly licensed with the Auctioneer Commission. Legal counsel reviewed the documentation in the file and confirmed that respondent is properly licensed with both the Auctioneer Commission and the Real Estate Commission, so the recommendation is to dismiss.
Sounds like a disgruntled competitor. I move that we accept legal's recommendation and dismiss this one.
Second.
Been moved and second to accept legal's recommendation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the last item, item 7, 2014031411. A complaint was filed alleging that respondent owner violated TCA 6219-112B 6, 9, and 11. Respondent gallery owner sent a response to the complaint stating that complainant would do anything to put him out of business. Respondent owner stated that pursuant to the application questions filed with the Auctioneer Commission, he has never, nor has any officer or director ever been indicted or convicted on charges involving embezzlement, obtaining money under false pretenses, larceny, or extortion. Respondent owner also stated that he maintains contractual agreements with all his sellers and consigns containing all terms and conditions pursuant to the sale of all property being sold. Respondent owner also stated that he never uses false bidders, cappers, or pullers. Respondent owner stated he looks forward to working with the Commission to resolve any complaints regarding its company. Legal counsel did research to determine whether respondent owner had any felony convictions and obtained documents from a county criminal court showing that respondent owner pled guilty to violation of the sex offender registry and was convicted of a Class E felony in 2005. And the recommendation on this one is for discussion. I've included TCA 6219-112B6, which states the Commission may suspend, revoke, or refuse to renew any license issued under this chapter for any of the following causes. And Section 6 says, being convicted in a court of competent jurisdiction of this or any other state or of the United States of a criminal offense involving moral turpitude or a felony. Complainant did not provide proof of a violation of Section 9 or 11 as alleged. So really the only thing we're looking at here would be Section 6, which is the section involving the felony.
What is 9 and 11?
9 is failing prior to the sale at public auction to enter into a written contract with the owner or consignee of any property to be terms and conditions upon which the licensee receives the property for sale. And 11 is knowingly using false bidders, cappers, or pullers.
In your own words, would you describe to me what
Situation?
happened? Yes.
Okay,
Please.
this is a tough one because the respondent is gallery.
Owner.
So the complaint was filed, but the complaint was filed against the gallery itself. The issue is the gallery owner is not licensed, correct? He's just a non-auctioneer. Right. So all of these...
You say the gallery owner does not have a license?
He qualifies.
Talking to your mic.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to convey to her. He qualifies the gallery. He's not an auctioneer.
Right.
He is an owner who took the 30-hour class. He's a non-auctioneer owner.
But he has a gallery license?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was filed against the gallery?
Right.
And
it's
the
gallery
complaint
owner,
is that they don't have a contract and that you got shields in the audience.
and that the gallery owner has a felony conviction, basically.
That wasn't part of the complaint.
It was. It
was?
Yeah, he alleged B6, 9, and 11. So in addition to those other two I read you, they also allege 6, which is the felony.
They did allege 6?
They did.
Okay. So they said this guy is a crook and he doesn't have a contract to sell stuff and he's got cappers and pullers.
So that when they made the allegation,
When
the legal
did-
department went in and found
When did
these
this
court
gentleman
records.
turn in an application to get a gallery license?
I don't.
Said he was licensed in November of 2013.
It says-
Well, I know, but who would check his application out?
The office would have reviewed his application. He did not disclose it, but what is asked,
Right, there's a little bit of a conflict on the application when people are trying to apply for a license. It asks if you've ever been indicted or convicted on charges and there's specific things. It's embezzlement, obtaining money under false pretenses, larceny, or extortion. And this applicant checked no because he's saying that's the truth. It wasn't any one of those four things. Then when we looked it up, we found court records showing that there was a conviction for the sex offender registry, which is not one of those things. So technically, he wasn't being false on the application. It just wasn't one of the offenses that was listed. Then when we went back and looked it up, we found that he had this, and then I felt like you guys at least needed to know because now we have the information.
On the auctioneers or an apprentice auctioneer's application, I thought it said felony. Does it read different on the gallery, or am I wrong about the?
Apparently it does read different.
I think it says it did say.
I believe it is
have you ever been
specific
convicted of a
to
felony?
financial crimes.
Okay.
As Ms. Baird
So you
just
can be you can have a
suggested.
felon, be a gallery owner.
Unless it's a financial crime.
You could rob a bank if you didn't get caught and put the money up and buy your gallery license.
I mean, yeah, the application does state those four things. We
I
would have
don't think-
probably not known about this other conviction had this person not filed the complaint alleging a felony, and then we looked up the court records.
Well, I thought that we checked these applications out better than that when you fill out an application. I would have thought
Gallery
you would have found out if they had especially a gallery license, which should never have happened anyway, but that you would some way check out and see if they were crooks before we give them a license.
Sir, your application, what's on the application has been approved by the commission. We don't do a background check. So the
We
gentleman.
had talked about that in the past about, yeah, we do. But does the apprentice and auctioneer one, does it say felony and list those things like the gallery one, or does it?
I believe it is exactly as Ms. Baird stated.
Because, I mean, we've had people that's answered that question and it's really not been anything financial related. They were just honest people and answered the question, you know.
The apprentice application states, has anyone ever obtained a judgment against the applicant involving personal property, real estate in any court, or have you been convicted of any criminal offense other than a minor traffic violation? That is on the apprentice application.
It says a criminal
But
offense.
that one does
other than
cover
a
it.
traffic violation,
That one
which
covers
that
it.
would have covered this if that's the way the gallery one read. But apparently the gallery one reads different.
Let's go on with this one, then let's discuss gallery license applications later.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we can we started that project a few months back to revise the applications. We can certainly look at it
Back on
and
that.
expand it and
And
include.
don't think that I think you're not doing your job. You can only do what it says.
Right.
Yes, it specifically states, has the partner, officer, or director ever been convicted, indicted, or convicted on charges involving embezzlement, obtaining money under false pretenses, larceny, or extortion? And then it specifically asks about any other suits that, are there any civil judgments pending against the officer or director? And has the applicant ever engaged in auction activities? So the gallery application is narrowed to financial crimes.
That's what I was trying to get at, whether he lied on the application or not. Apparently, technically, no.
Oh, he did
Correct.
not.
We had a motion.
We hadn't had a motion yet.
Don't have a
We're
motion.
talking right now. But anyway, can you were trying to explain this in your own words. If you continue with that, just kind of give us in a nutshell what's really
Okay.
going on here.
So I guess the reason that I'm recommending discussion is because the statute in 6219-112, which is what this complaint revolves around, says the commission may suspend, revoke, or refuse to renew any license issued under this chapter for any of the following causes. And the section 6 says being convicted in a court of competent jurisdiction of this or any state of a criminal offense involving moral turpitude or a felony. So this can be any felony because it just says or a felony. Now
Right.
the question is, it's not because the complaint was filed against the gallery itself, and because this statute says revoke, suspend, or refuse a license, and the owner doesn't really have.
What's the relationship between the complainant and the respondent?
That I don't know. That information was not in the file. Sometimes they divulge that information, sometimes they don't. But because
And then why was there not a complaint filed against the auctioneer?
The gallery owner is the guy.
right,
And the
that's
he owns the gallery.
yeah, he's the
And
responsible
he has
party.
the license for the gallery, so in essence, he is filing the complaint against the guy.
And I guess the question is, I guess since he is responsible for the gallery, and I guess what you're saying is he is the gallery, I guess my question would be, does it reach that far? I mean,
I don't know, I mean, but I don't understand why they would make this complaint without any proof. I mean, how do you,
well,
I mean, was he a buyer? Was he a consigner? Was he a?
I don't know why they made the complaint without proof of 9 and 11 involving the false bidders and all that.
That's
I
my
don't know
point.
that they could have found anything on the guy's felony conviction, which is why we looked it up. But I think they did print something on that. But that's the only information that they gave us.
Fortunately, so far, there's been no evidence against the gallery owner other than us doing a background check and discovering he was a sex offender. Our application doesn't ask them if they're a sex offender. It only
Right.
says, "Are you are these 4 things?"
That's right.
So he's done everything he's supposed to do, whether we like it or not. And I would have to know more about the complaint, who the complainer was, whether it was a consigner or a customer, and why they would make the complaints. And it would just to go out there and say, well, yeah, these guys are doing these things. You can't just say that without having some sort of evidentiary proof
Right.
of that happening.
And if you feel like the respondent in this situation has done everything that he was supposed to do, then we can certainly go based on that. I just
Right.
wanted discussion for the purposes of trying to find out what you all thought about
Unless
that,
there's
because I've
further,
never had this come
unless
up.
there's further proof against the gallery
Right.
owner, I recommend we dismiss this
Okay.
case.
Okay.
Take that in the form of a motion.
Before you make your motion, I still don't know what the complaint was.
We don't either.
Yeah, that's kind of Jeff's point. I don't think he does either.
Right. Well, all the complaint alleged was that the owner of this gallery violated this statute that I read, 6219, 112B, 6, and 9. So there were 3 sections they were alleging he violated. There was no evidence. They didn't provide any proof of 9 or 11. The only thing they had was a printout of this guy's conviction, which we checked the court records on and found that it in fact was a felony in 2005. So really they didn't provide a lot of information. So I can't really state who the complainant was in this case or what they were after, but there just wasn't a lot of information.
There's been a motion made to dismiss. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second to dismiss. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
That concludes my entertainment. Okay, actually, that concludes the legal report, but I have one more thing. Tab 3. Yeah, we actually just got this last night, so that's it. It's the thicker printout.
Should say tab 3 in the upper right-hand corner.
This one right here, guys. The big, thick one that's stapled together.
Okay, so what happened in this situation was we had a gentleman who contacted us on a couple of occasions, Kimberly and I, basically asking for clarification on storage unit auctions. So the dilemma here is when people call in, consumers, even though I'm the attorney for the Auctioneer Commission, I can't give them legal advice on how to run their business. It's just where we can't do that because basically you guys are our client. We can't give them information, which frustrates them to no end every single time, but it's just not something that we can do. So as a way to try to help this person, I suggested perhaps he pose a question to the commission asking for clarification on his specific storage unit. I asked him to put something in writing so that you guys could see it, and then maybe you could help provide some clarification for this person. Unfortunately, when he sent this in, he sent it in yesterday, so I haven't actually even read into it too much. Got it in my email this morning. I'm not sure that the question is super clear from this. I was hoping that he would provide something a little bit more succinct. I don't know if the best way to handle it would be just give you guys time to look over what's in here, and then we can try to get some clarification for him. It looks like he's included the code sections, and apparently he's included some snippets from other legal reports of other complaints that were filed, maybe to try to show there was precedent. But I tried to explain to him that every situation is circumstantial, so just because you guys made a decision in one particular matter doesn't mean it necessarily applies to him.
Is this an auctioneer or a storage unit owner or a consumer that we're talking to?
This gentleman is out of state. It is my understanding he is an auctioneer in his home state, but he is not an auctioneer in the state of Tennessee.
What's the gist of his complaint?
He doesn't have a complaint. He more or less has a question about conducting storage unit auctions and whether he is required to be licensed to sell those. And he's provided several, in the conversation, several different documentation about lien laws and other things, that if the person is the storage unit company selling their own property, and can he sell it for them?
I think I'll have an answer to that real quick. Any person soliciting, offering to do an auction without a license in the state of Tennessee is prohibited.
But I think he was saying that he himself doesn't
Advertise.
and doesn't collect money.
Yes.
He's just doing it for a fee, right?
He basically,
Just being an auctioneer.
and this is again, it is limited, and it's very hard in these circumstances because we ourselves get limited information from them, and this is again why we do not render any legal advice.
They're just coming in calling bids for the storage facility, we think.
That is the limited facts. Yes, that he is coming in. He is not advertising the
I've
unit.
often wondered about all this.
the
Of
unit-
course, all this has got crazy since all them TV shows and all that kind of stuff. And I'd like to look at it a little more, but at this information, just because I've never really paid any attention to those lien laws and all that stuff, because I own storage units, because I just don't see that there's that much money to be made there, but from a business standpoint. But I'm kind of like Howard, if you're going to auction something, you need to have a license.
If you want to take this information with you and defer it to the next meeting
I'd
until
like to
you can
do
have a
that.
chance to mull over it, just don't talk about it to each other.
Now, wait a minute.
Because you can't,
Sunshine laws.
the Sunshine Law says
I
you
can't even
can't.
believe I said that.
I'm not saying that you would, I'm just saying.
Well,
you should not.
I'll be honest with you, I probably would.
Well,
Because
don't.
look,
This is your forum to do that. This is the forum in which to.
I mean, you're
have that
welcome to read
discussion.
over it and then come back at the next meeting and discuss it on the record, but just don't talk to each other about it.
I won't, I promise you.
Okay.
Well, I recommend that we
But-
do exactly that. So we'll
He
have,
recommends
we'll
you
have a
don't
meeting,
talk to
we'll have
each
a
other.
meeting in April. We can talk about it some more on the record.
Okay. Is there any? We'll defer. I will have an
Yeah.
agenda item for
Okay.
this storage unit auction discussion.
Do you have any pertinent law that we can point to, that you could email us, that we could take a look at this?
I can send you guys an email through Kimberly so that you'll have, and give you the statutes so that you know what you're
Right.
looking for.
Yeah, if you'll tell us exactly where to go look for that, that would be
Could you,
great.
could you not get the Attorney General's opinion on this and that solve it?
Probably she could not.
It'll take a little while, but I mean, if you want an Attorney General's opinion,
No,
that's
let's,
fine.
let's
I
try
can't
it
tell
this
you no,
first.
but
That's what we're here for.
I can-
We would not have it by April.
Well, are we gonna have a meeting in April?
Yeah. We're scheduled to.
Well, not necessarily. We talked the first of the year, if we didn't have enough business, we would not conduct a.
Yes, just as Mr. Morse stated, we are scheduled to have a meeting. We will evaluate it closer to the meeting date.
Okay, we're
So,
deferring.
assuming we have a meeting in April, we'll just, if I could get a motion that will defer this matter.
And I'll send you guys the necessary information.
I move that we table this to the next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
How long will it take to do it today?
Do what?
This.
We can look at it some more if you want to.
I mean, you guys can do, if you feel like you want to take the time right now to just look over it.
I just need to go to the bathroom before we do.
Oh,
Or if you'd like, you can move it to the bottom. We can finish the regular business and we can move this discussion.
Been moved and seconded to table it till the next meeting.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We'll take a 10-minute break.
Yeah, I still need to go to the restroom whether we defer or not.
Don't be out there discussing whether you sell storage lockers.
Discussing what?
Storage
I don't know what
lockers.
you're talking about. She on state time now.
Oh.
Next item on the agenda is the tab 4. It is the complaint report. Currently, the auctioneer commission stands at 94.59%, which is above the current divisional standard of 80%. You have 55 open complaints currently. Informational purposes.
Pretty good.
Yes, we're doing very well.
Looks good.
Okay. Next is tab 5, which is your monthly budget report. This is your financial information as of January 31st. If anyone has any questions, it's just for information.
Questions continue.
Next on tab 6, you have an applicant. This applicant disclosed that they were disciplined in the state of Georgia. In 2009, he was working for a firm that had let their license lapse. He was fined by Georgia, and you'll see his explanation on the first page.
Rodney's got the touch.
Okay. Is everyone on tab 6?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Finally.
And I gave you a brief overview of what's in the letter, but you're certainly welcome to read through the letter.
Synopsis of it, or
Just that the gentleman disclosed that he was disciplined, and he paid a civil penalty, I believe $250, because the company that he was working for had allowed their license to lapse.
So everything else is okay, it's just this.
Yes, it was just because he had disclosed this. I do not feel comfortable administratively approving these types of applications and will continue to bring those forward to the commission.
He disclosed it.
Yes, sir, he did
As we've
disclose
seen,
it.
some people don't.
Yes, he disclosed it. I researched the information on Georgia's website, and there were no other disciplinary matters listed
I'll
besides
move
this.
it, I'll move it, we approve his application.
Been moved in second to approve. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Sir. Tab 7, this is an apprentice application. I'll allow it. Is everyone on tab 7?
We're getting there.
Okay.
My fingers make it go for.
Howard, you gotta have a pulse, man.
I was on tab 11.
He's gold.
Okay.
Okay. This is the sponsoring auctioneer and the apprentice live in separate states. The applicant is requesting a waiver of the requirement that the sponsor and the apprentice live in the same state.
State they live in.
Georgia. The gentleman resides on the border between Georgia and Tennessee.
One lives in Tennessee and one lives in Georgia.
Yes, sir.
Which is which?
The applicant lives in Tennessee and the sponsor lives in Georgia.
Is he getting a non-resident license?
The applicant?
Yeah.
The applicant lives in Tennessee.
And the
Sponsor is
Georgia,
in Georgia,
Sponsor
he has
is-
a non-resident license.
Oh, yes, sir.
He has a Tennessee
He's
license.
already licensed.
Right.
in
Yes,
Tennessee.
I'm sorry. I'm
So,
sorry.
but is there a firm gonna be in Georgia?
The way he made it sound that they were doing sales here in Tennessee.
And that, but the firm is gonna be located in Georgia,
I
correct?
think the auctioneer, the licensed auctioneer's firm is in Georgia. The physical address of the business is Rock Springs, Georgia.
He's got a Georgia, the
Probably-
firm has got a, he's
he
in
probably
Georgia, got
has-
a Georgia and a Tennessee license. This boy lives in Tennessee across the line, wants to get an Tennessee apprentice license.
No, the apprentice is just in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me.
But he's just right across the state line.
Somebody is putting in an application that lives in the state of Tennessee wanting to work for somebody who lives in the state of Georgia
That has a Tennessee license.
that has a Tennessee license,
Non-resident firm.
non-resident Tennessee license.
Right.
Georgia has a Tennessee apprentice license law.
I do not know the answer regarding Georgia. I could certainly research that for you.
Seems like he would have to apprentice under the Georgia firm license
If they do.
If in Georgia.
in Georgia.
He didn't mention if he
Did
was
apprentice
trying
under
to
both of
get
them,
dual
didn't he?
licensure himself.
Well,
I'm confused.
how could he be apprentice in Tennessee under a auctioneer in Georgia, and he's wanting to get a Tennessee apprentice license?
Sir, the auctioneer from Georgia is also a Tennessee licensee.
But
Non-resident.
he doesn't live in Tennessee.
Correct. He's on the border town.
We have granted apprentice permission to work for an auctioneer in a adjoining state, providing that it was, they live closer to that person than they did a Tennessee auction company. But I don't know if this applies. That applies.
Said he's 25 minutes from where he lives. I think we've done some stuff like
We
that
have
up
done
on
it
the
before.
Kentucky border and stuff like that.
Well, especially Virginia and Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have no problem with
I
it.
wouldn't either.
The firm that he's working for is also is a Tennessee firm.
Right, they got
licensed as a
I
Tennessee
understand.
firm. Mhm.
Yeah, I move that we approve the application.
Well, if Georgia has a Tennessee apprentice law, if they don't, you can't do it. He's applying for a Tennessee apprentice license,
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does Georgia have a Tennessee apprentice law?
He's not going to be working in Georgia. He's going to be working in Tennessee.
Yeah, when this guy has lots of sales over in Tennessee, he's gonna be working those sales.
Right.
Can't get hours in Georgia. The law states that you're supposed to, I believe it's a rule states that you're supposed to live in the same state.
Right, it says 0160-01-.12 says all sponsoring auctioneers shall reside in the same state as his or her apprentice auctioneer. However, in appropriate cases, upon good cause being shown, the commission may waive this rule.
I second that motion.
Mr. Morrison, you made the motion?
Oh, Bobby did.
Mr. Colson did, okay.
I think we still got some questions.
I'm not sure we can do that.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we've done it.
When it was.
We did it for a guy in Kentucky. Kentucky.
Been a motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
4-1.
Okay, next. Don't change tabs.
We should just put it all under one large tab.
Yes.
Ronnie's got the touch.
Maybe that's the problem. I'm not treating it like a lady. Okay, we're ready.
Okay. Next, and I apologize for this gentleman if I mispronounce his name, Linandari, is requesting the commission waive the requirement that he be apprenticed for 2 years before applying for an auctioneer license. He is currently residing in North Dakota, and they do not have a reciprocal agreement with the state of Tennessee. On the second page, there's a letter from him.
He doesn't want to go through an apprentice program, is what he's trying to say.
Yes, sir, that is what he's saying.
Yeah. I think we have the authority to accept or make an exception to reciprocity. Reciprocity is by state law, is it not?
Looking here under 6219-117, under our reciprocity law, and it says, the commission may recognize a license issued by any other state to a non-resident auctioneer or apprentice auctioneer if the non-resident auctioneer or apprentice is domiciled in the other state that issued the license. The other state reciprocates with this state in like manner, and the licensure requirements of the other state include the passing of an examination of equal or higher standards than those required by the state. So it looks like there's three things there.
I don't think we have the authority to do what he's asking us to do.
North Dakota must not be a licensed state.
Tennessee doesn't border.
There's not any states on the other side of the Mississippi that have a license except for Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana.
I think you can do it either.
So we don't have the authority to do what he's asking.
And that is perfectly fine. I wanted to, this was addressed to the commission.
Right.
So I wanted to present it to the commission for
We'd love to help the guy out, but we don't have that authority.
We will let him know. We will provide him with the statute that
All right.
We need a
explains
vote?
that.
We need a motion?
Yes.
I thought so.
I move that we tell the guy that we don't have the authority to do what he's asking.
Moved in second. All in favor, aye. Aye.
Tab 9.
And tab 9 was, this was slated on the agenda. The gentleman had some courses that he had previously taken and wanted to see if he could get credit for. He never sent the courses in, so we'll skip tab 9. There is nothing to present.
Tab 10.
Okay, tab 10 is, it's actually 6 courses. These are continuing education courses for approval. These are from Nashville Auction School, and I believe Ms. Ressa is still present if you have any questions. Remember, each CE course has to be approved by the commission, so we'll need a vote.
6.
There are 6 in total, and if you have any questions, I'm sure Ressa
You
will.
want Russ to come up and just give us a thumbnail sketch of what you got?
Ressa Hanson with Nashville Auction School. What I have presented to the commission today is 6 different courses. 4 of them are 3-hour courses, and 5 of them are 3-hour courses. One of them is marked as a 6-hour. 1 6-hour course and 5 3-hour courses. We are having a retreat in Nashville, again at the Nelson Andrews Leadership Lodge, in April, to celebrate our 50th anniversary. And we have aligned speakers, national speakers from around the country, and bid calling champions to present programs, and we would like to submit those for continuing education. Social media class being presented by Janelle Taylor for 3 hours. Benefit auctions, 78 ways to earn more from benefit auctions for 3 hours, also being presented by Janelle Taylor. An advanced bid calling summit, developing your professional presentation by asset area, with 5 instructors, that being Brian Knox, who is a commissioner in Alabama and an international auctioneer championship. From the NAA, Justin Oakes, who is an international auctioneer champion, Megan Needens from Kansas City, who is an international auction champion, and Andy White, who is a NAA IAC champion as well, along with Charlie Cummins, who is a livestock auctioneer. All of them are submitted as instructors for that program. That's the 6-hour program. Boosting Your Brand is another 3-hour program being presented by Janelle Taylor out of Tampa, Florida. Sales setup and presentation being offered by, and his name just ran right out of my head.
Tim Pfister.
Tim Pfister, right? Tim Pfister from
Yeah.
Hilco Industrial, and Measure for Success Auction Marketing for 3 hours being presented by John Schultz out of Minnesota. So we're requesting that they be approved for presentation. The only one that we would continue to offer beyond that seminar would be the sales setup and presentation and the marketing class.
Is this a free class?
Pardon?
Is it a free class?
No, we are going to have some free classes there, but the free classes will not be eligible for continuing education. So there'll be a nominal fee. It's going to be less expensive than what we offer in our regular classroom things, with incentives for our graduates.
Ressa, Measure for Success Auction Marketing. That is slated as a 6-hour course?
It really is a 3-hour course.
Okay.
That would be a typographical error. So
Okay.
I'm submitting
I
it
just
as
wanted
a
to-
3-hour course. Mhm.
Okay. Will you send me an updated? There's 6 courses in total.
I think these are these are all timely. I questioned some of your instructors on the advanced bid calling. Some of them in the audience today, but that's. But no, I think it's good course material, and it's good to change it all up from time to time. So I move that we approve them.
Moved in second, all in favor say aye. Wait. Were we supposed to do each one individual? Is that what you said?
Did we do them as a group?
I think we can do them as a group.
Put for all 6.
For all 6.
I can just read them. Social media, branding, and marketing for 2015, 3 hours. Benefit auctions, 78 ways to earn more from benefit auctions, a 3-hour course. Advanced bid calling, developing your professional presentation by asset area, a 6-hour course. Boost your brand, 7 essentials for attracting qualified clients, a 3-hour course. Sale setup and preparation, a 3-hour course. And Measure for Success auction marketing, a 3-hour course. We had a motion for approval by Mr. Collier and a second by Mr. Morris.
I think it was.
The
Oh,
other way around.
Morris, okay, I'm sorry. All
That's
right.
okay. It don't matter. Credit doesn't.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Moving right along. Thank you, Ressa.
Okay, on tab 11, you have documentation for a public auto auction application for review.
I'd like to be excused from this one.
The record will reflect that Mr. Collier recused himself from.
on this?
I'm sorry? That is a supplemental to tab 11. This is information provided by the representatives, which we have 3, 4, how many? 4 representatives from this application that are present with us. We also have Tony Glandorf with us. If any of the representatives would like to speak, we have a mic over there we request that you use. What you have before you is, sir, you'll have to actually use the mic at the table. I'm sorry. My apologies. An application for Fairway Auto Auctions.
If I could address the my name is Tony Glandorf. I'm the chief counsel here, and I was involved in reviewing this application when it came in. I've been working with Kimberly quite over the last month, looking at the requirements, and the organizers of this event have actually come in and talked with us, and I've sat down with them for a while and went over their application with them, and I've reviewed their current, most updated application that they provided to us, and I'm here today to tell you that I've looked over this, and I don't think that this application is sufficient to issue a public automobile. Specifically, the deficiencies that I see is that this public automobile auction, where it is intended to take place, does not have a motor vehicle dealer's license issued for that location, and secondly, it does not have a public automobile auctioneer individual who has applied for or received a motor vehicle dealer's in their individual name.
Thank you, sir. Well, it appears to me from listening to the council that we're not qualified. Any discussion?
Well, it sounds to me.
Is there a recommendation?
I would like to hear from the applicant.
My name's Will Loomis. Be here to represent Mr. Moon and Ferry Auction in New Orleans. And we do classic cars. Also an auctioneer.
Did you
since
say New
2000.
Orleans?
Yes,
Did I
sir.
understand you right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We went into this looking at what we had to do to meet the requirements of the state of Tennessee. Of those were have a dealer license, a surety bond, insurance, a location, all parts of the regulatory commission, I guess based off the Automobile Auctioneer Commission guidelines. That is Public Automobile Auction Automobile Auctioneer, 01600125. And no point in there does it say that the public automobile auctioneer has to be the sole proprietor or the principal of the firm that's going to be holding the auction. And that's kind of how we went into this, going off of what the regulatory guidelines were for this this particular license. When we found out that the Attorney General, actually even proceeding, we knew that we had to have public automobile auctioneers that worked for us, that would sponsor our business. So we got reputable. We got We called some people and got people to say, hey, these guys are reputable people. We checked them out. We also, watched video of them to make sure that they were good auctioneers.
Do you have a dealer's license for the location you're going to have the auction?
We have done everything to get that dealer license that we can.
That wasn't my
We put up
question,
the
sir.
sign.
Do you have the license?
I would have to defer to Mr. Moon on that because he's the one that's setting up the dealer
But
license.
today, as of today, you do not have a dealer's
I
license.
did not know until last week that he even had to have one.
I know this is beside the point, gentlemen, but I have a public automobile dealer's auction and a public automobile auctioneer license. It was one of the hardest things that I ever done in my life to get. And I want you to understand, I am not against y'all doing a public automobile auction. I wish we had more in the state because it would be better. But there's a lot of hoops that we've got to, when we got this law, we were almost shot at the stake. It was hard to do. And if we don't have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed.
I think that we have everything fundamentally that we need to do the auction. And if you go back to the Flexibility Act, the Regulatory Act that y'all can put into the law into order, if you look at the requirements for doing this type of auction, the responsibility really lies with the dealer. So asking the public automobile auctioneer to share the responsibility of that or be the sole person that handles that is really a duplication of laws that were already intact in the state of Tennessee.
We don't like the laws any better than you do, but we have to act within guides of those. I mean, I'm in Memphis, and I've been looking to do this myself, and I can't meet all the criteria. And so, again, we've got to go down. If you don't have, like Howard said, if we don't have everything lined up and done right, then we're in violation. So we want to help you guys out, and we want to be as responsible.
If you haven't got the dealer's license yet, you kind of got the cart before the horse.
Yeah, right. You got to get your dealer's license first, and you do need a public automobile auctioneer.
He does have a dealer license.
I've had dealer's license.
For this location, sir.
No, I didn't
Do you
realize
have,
I
but do
had
you,
this
and
location.
you don't have a public automobile auction license for this location?
I've got everything in place to do it. I can do it today. I've got insurance, my surety bond, my sign.
Have you been to public automobile auction school?
He has not, but if you go to the regulatory requirements, it does not say that anywhere that the owner has to be the sole proprietor. or the
Sir,
principal.
I helped write this law when it was done, and it says that the owner has to have a public automobile auction license or one of the owners.
It says that in the opinion from what I can tell, but it's not in the regulatory requirements that are listed on the page that I gave. I guess, could I ask why there were other licenses that were carried in the past? I mean, I went back through the minutes and I can see where there's several other companies that you guys allowed to have licenses that are not the principal or sole proprietor of their own business.
The one that I know of is Ted Russell Ford in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Mr. Russell, how much of his company he gave, I don't know. But John Bates is part owner of the company, who is the public auctioneer.
I found 4 instances where the auctioneer listed in the 2015 requirements was not the principal of the firm. Mid-South Auto Auction, the auctioneer is listed as Cart Parker, the owner is Lonnie Cobb. Dealer Auto Auction of Chattanooga, Tennessee, is not listed at all in the 2015 licenses, but it was approved in prior minutes. The owner of that business is Vincent Mafusi. Auto Auctions, Inc., principal is Bill Colson. The auctioneer listed is Robert and Edward Colson, which I assume is family. And America's Power Sport Auction, principal Mark Valstola. and that's listed as Jonathan Wood. So is there a
Are
consistency?
you talking about
These are people
Bill
that.
Colson auction in here?
Yeah, these were all people that were approved in the minutes in prior years, but they're not the principal or sole proprietor, nor are they listed on here as having the public automobile auctioneer license.
I believe two of the, I'm not,
Mark is a principal, not that I need to justify anything to you,
No,
but
no,
Mark
I'm
Mark
I'm
is
asking just for
principal.
consistency.
Mark is principal of Auto Auctions, Inc.
and I went to school and got our license at the same time. Two of those gentlemen did, so I know that they do have public automobile auction license. And again, I'm not here to argue. If you've got it together today, then we'll look at issuing a license. If you don't have it together today, we're not going to look at issuing a license. And the council says that we don't have it together. So what do y'all think?
I don't think we can look at it.
I don't either.
It's Philip Trailer, and I know all you guys. It's good to see you.
Sir, I need you to speak into the mic, please. Thank you.
We're not mean guys.
Oh, no, I know you're not. And just like Jeff said earlier, said, you know, it's free economy, and you want everybody to do a lot of stuff. And like Commissioner Morris said earlier as well, he said, I've been trying to do this for a long time, and the way this law is written, it's impossible. Just about impossible. Now, you know, Mr. Phillips, you've obviously done it, and Mr. Colson has, and it's due to your facilities. But having to have the motor vehicle license and everything else and facilities that you do, it's impossible for somebody with a regular Tennessee firm that goes out here and sells apartment buildings one day and estates the next to do this thing. I've moved some of my personal stuff into the state of...
Not impossible, but
Well,
hard.
you know what I mean. It's very time consuming and financially, it's impossible for somebody like me. Mr. Vicari and Mr. Loomis sitting here beside me. Mr. Vicari couldn't be here due to illness. They run a super good business down south, do half a dozen big sales a year. They're trying their best to do this thing right, kind of a little bit behind the eight ball when it comes to time frame. As far as the principal public automobile auctioneer, I will serve that for them. If it is of your opinion that you can give them that license, I'm here to do that. Of course, I've been selling for 24 or 5 years in Tennessee, and I don't take that lightly by any means. And I do 300 sales a year, and so I make my living off the auction industry. So needless to say, that's nothing that I take lightly. I'm here to do that as a principal auctioneer, public automobile auctioneer for them, and I think we're all in agreement. There's some things here that legislatively probably need to be changed. You know, there were some things that we lost when we got this public automobile auctioneer and auction firm license that it's a shame we don't have back. One of those being a 25-year-old exemption.
I was going to ask you about that. Now, you can sell antique cars.
That exemption is no longer in the law, according to council. And I didn't know that
I didn't
until
know
a month
that either.
ago.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
It's perfectly fine because, Mr. Chairman, the issue being is that when I brought them in the building and spoke with them is that there was possibly some unintended consequences when that happened, but there's not an exception for any vehicles according to age or whatnot anymore when you're selling them specifically to the public.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
I was under the same impression. In fact, when we first made initial contact, I said, guys, it's pretty easy. I said, you know, as a Tennessee firm owner, you can sell cars off a rooftop somewhere as long as they're 25 years old or older. I was under that same impression and didn't know that it had changed. And I'm thankful that council corrected us. But to be honest with you, it's something that we need to kind of talk to our legislators about because we need that law back. And I know there's nothing we can do about it in this room, but that's one thing that we really need back.
Got an auctioneer up there on the hill that can listen to us.
That's right. You're correct. That's correct.
Well, I think that this law gave us a lot more than it took away. It gave us the ability to do something that we've never been able to do before. And it sounds like to me y'all just getting the cart before the horse. I mean, our own staff has already sat there and told us that all the criteria, and so.
Are you putting that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
There's been a motion made to, I guess, postpone until we get
We had to deny the application.
Get everything together.
At this time.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Been moved in second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Did you vote?
Aye.
I thank you. And
Ronnie's out.
excused.
We'd love for y'all to come back next month and with everything else, and we'd be glad to approve it.
Well, yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, I think that it would be very indulgent to, reconsider the language of this law, because I think it creates significant barriers to do business in Tennessee. And in
Unfortunately,
reality,
we don't
we're
have the
probably
ability
gonna
to change any of the language in any of our laws, and I changed a lot of it, but we're going through that now. We've been a year trying to get just some minor things changed just to clean what we've got up, and you won't believe how difficult that is, because nobody's listening. But
All right, well, thank you very much, sir. What's the next item?
Legislative report.
The final item is tab 4. There have been 2 bills filed that are related to the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission. The first bill amends Retailer Sales Tax Act, providing that business does not include certain sales by a community foundation.
tab 12.
I'm sorry, yes.
All in, all done?
This is Senate Bill 36, House Bill 244, and this one particularly, auctions were simply mentioned, so it was assigned to us. I can send you a link. You can track these bills and follow these.
What does it say?
It basically, this bill amends the Retailer Sales Tax Act by providing that business does not include certain sales by community foundations as described. And
Say that again.
Well, it says as described in section 170C2, and whatever section 170C2 says.
yes, it's USC. If you flip over, it actually has the verbiage from the bill.
Over where?
It is on page.
Oh, there it is.
If you,
Oh,
Yeah,
there.
there-
I got it.
did you find it? It says Senate Bill 36 by Overby. Is that what you're looking at? It says for a community foundation described in 26 USC section 170C2, business does not include sales that the community foundation elects to make in lieu of 2 semi-annual temporary sales periods. Provided that in any calendar year, the sale shall take place during no more than 1 auction, which lasts no more than 48 hours, in each county designated to receive charitable support from a fund or trust that comprises a component part of the community foundation.
What does that say?
Let's see. Let me look at it for a second and see if I can break it down better.
This has to do with the Retailer Sales Tax Act, and it's saying auction sales are excluded, is what it's saying?
Well, I hope
Auction
so.
sales made by certain charitable organizations. is what it was
Charity
saying.
auctions would not be subject to sales tax.
Correct.
Okay.
Some charity auctions.
Right. It has to be from where it says provided that in any calendar year. Those would be the stipulations.
There's been that fine line between charity auctions and benefit auctions in the last few years.
This is really, we were assigned this bill simply because the word auction
Right.
is mentioned, so this doesn't actually affect the commission or any of its laws.
Worth looking at though, yeah.
Yes, and so I will send you a link where you can follow these bills just as I did last year. The second bill is House Bill 71, Senate Bill 81. This bill defines the term principal auctioneer. I believe everyone received the email related to this earlier in the year when this was originally filed. This is just a term that is used in statute and used in rule that has been previously undefined in it. This adds a definition of principal auctioneer to the code section. And I highlighted on your iPads the actual section because this is a lengthy bill, but you only have the one section 8 that relates to the Auctioneer Commission.
I think this is fine, the principal auctioneer deal, but the only thing that kinda got me about it is we didn't know nothing about it. And I found out about it on the street before I found out about it from y'all. and that kind of upset me a little bit, because this bill here about the principal auctioneer thing, you know.
What does it say?
Yeah, all it's doing is defining a principle. I think we'd had some discussion years back about, it was a little confusing, it was a whole lot confusing between principal and sponsor. The sponsor was used and the two were kind of interchangeable, and I think this is to clarify it, and I think it's good. It's just that a couple of meetings prior to all this, I asked 2 or 3 times, have we got any legislation, I kept getting no as the answer, and then I found out about this on the street, and it just kind of shocked me.
You need to stay off the street.
Sometimes it finds me, Howard.
Sunshine law, sunshine law.
Sometimes it finds me.
This is actually, it is from those meetings.
Yeah.
Where it was discussed. This is part of the administrative package.
I know, and the only point I had was time or two we'd ask is, you know, we got anything going in? Y'all said, no, ain't nothing going in, and here. I think it's good. I think we need it, but I just would like to be a little better informed.
Understood?
And I'm talking about right here in front of all of us.
No, but if you heard about it on the street, somebody violated.
No, that's just
No, it was
conversation.
public record. It was public record. It was law. They ain't got nothing to do with sunshine, nothing. All that's got to do is go to LexisNexis and put in auctions. I found out about it, you know, because I try to
Well,
keep up on my industry, you know.
Right,
It ain't
and-
nothing to do with nothing, you know.
And I did inform the commission once the bill was filed. We have many things that are proposed, but things that never become part of the package that are filed. So my apologies.
Public record, that's about close as you can get. All right, that's it. Thank you. I think it's good.
Ronnie wanted to go back to tab 3.
You said we were going to.
We tabled it until the next meeting.
Y'all wanna go back to it?
Well, we got plenty of time. I mean, this meeting's only lasts 2 hours, and it takes me 4 to drive. No, it
Yes,
takes
sir.
8, yeah, that's right. 8-hour drive for a 2-hour meeting.
I don't mind looking at it.
This is my whole point about not having meetings when we don't have enough to have a meeting.
Yes, sir, but this,
Yeah, I
you
think we
had
need to have
applications and things.
We needed to
today.
have one today. I'll go along
Yes,
with
sir.
that, but
And again, you had a meeting today because there were applications that needed to be reviewed and approved by the commission. I cannot approve those administratively. So that, and again, anyone who would like to participate via teleconference, please let me know in advance. I will make arrangements through the.
I'm
IT
sorry
group.
my phone rang, but anyway, I got interrupted.
She's
And I
saying that
know,
if you participate by teleconference, you can do that too.
no, it's not a matter of participating, but teleconference. It's a matter to me, of the expense that's spent to have a 2.5-hour meeting if you get everything together. I mean, is there a law that says that you've got to process an application every month if they send one in?
No, sir, but we do have a licensing performance standard that does hold us accountable for how quickly we process applications. I don't know that you would want someone waiting 3 or 4 months to have their license application process. I don't know. I believe that would be a barrier to entry to a person who is trying to become licensed. I will do my best.
What is the process to become licensed?
The process to become licensed?
You send in an application.
Yes, sir, you send in an application. They have to have already met certain requirements. You know that you have to test,
Right.
that you have to go to school. If you're applying for an auctioneer license, you're coming with either reciprocity or you have to have completed your apprentice hours and upgrade. So it takes 2 years.
If I filled out an application to get me an apprentice auctioneer license and I've got a sponsor and I go to school and you have that application, y'all can't approve it,
No, sir, it all has to be completed before we can approve it.
but you can approve it without the commission.
Yes, sir.
If there's not
we
some
regularly
something-
do, but the two that were presented today, the applications, the apprentice auctioneer, I couldn't approve that one because that one, he
Right.
was requesting a waiver.
Right.
That requires the commission's action. The continuing education courses that were presented today require the commission's approval. I cannot approve those administratively. That is set out in rule that each one must be approved by the commission. So this was the business that was before the commission today.
It was good business.
Well, I think we need to have a meeting today for sure.
I do too.
You
I
wanna look at
agree.
this? Let's look at this and we'll save it from next time. Start with me.
I don't know what it is.
I ain't got nowhere to go.
Jeff don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
But,
But I think it's gonna require more than 10 minutes worth of discussion. In other words, I think you've got to do some study on this to see what it is we're trying to do.
Okay.
I don't know, I'd rather spend some time perusing it, and that's why I asked to have it
Oh, okay.
tabled before, so.
I move we adjourn then.
Yes, if there are any questions, in your review that need to be asked of the applicant, if you could send those to me directly, I will be happy to reach out to this gentleman to get those.
But I do want to bring up the fact that if this parking situation doesn't change, that if we could change the day and get parking, that's a big deal for me.
Yes,
It ain't gonna
yes,
change till they get that stadium built down there.
Yes, sir.
And then I hear it ain't gonna change.
And it ain't gonna change it, it'll be
We're
worse.
hoping once the parking garage is completed, the stadium is slated to be, opening day is April 17th. So I don't believe the parking garage will be completed April 17th. So it will be a few more months before, but yes, this day, particularly Monday, the first Monday, the cosmetology board meets, the motor vehicle commission sometimes meets on this day, so we have a large number, alongside the auctioneer commission. So if you would like to look at an alternative day, because this parking situation may continue.
Did it on a Tuesday, would that make a difference?
Yes, a Tuesday or a different Monday, potentially. I can look at the calendar to see what other meetings.
We changed to the second Monday instead of the first Monday, did that make a big difference?
I can't do second Monday because I have
There's another-
appraisers.
Okay.
Yeah, the
But
third
a
is really-
But a Tuesday would work for y'all?
The third week, I think is typically a
third
week we
Monday.
don't have. I can look at it and send you some potential alternative dates if this parking is significant. I just won't know from month to month.
Right.
So
Now, on a pretty
next
spring
month-
day, it don't matter, but if you get out there and it's snowing and sleeting and all that.
Yes, the next month or two, potentially. I mean, if it had been 2 weeks ago, we probably would have had to cancel. But
Right.
we will continue to have. So I can look at some potential dates. We could look at Mondays. We can look at Fridays. We can look at Tuesdays.
Well, I mean,
just
I'd
some
tr-
direction from the
I'd-
commission.
I don't know
I'd
about
prefer
I
Monday.
don't, huh?
I'd prefer Monday just because driving in the night before, it's more convenient.
I hate traveling on Sunday, that's my only problem.
I
Also
possibly,
have parking woes, so we understand.
Yes, the state employee parking is currently at the football stadium.
I possibly might miss the next three meetings. May have to have more surgery, so I'm giving y'all a warning, I might not be here for 3 or 4 months.
Okay, and that's another thing. If commission members would let me know, because sometimes we run into quorum. If Mr. Collier is letting us know in advance that he's going to be out.
I don't know till after tomorrow.
Yes, sir. I'm just saying, those are potential just for the rest of the commissioners. If one of you were to have a vacation or something, we potentially might have a quorum.
You'd rather travel on Sunday or Monday?
You know, it really don't matter.
I just like Sunday at home,
Nothing anyway.
right?
Just-
Anyway,
No, I don't care. It don't bother me.
and you'd rather travel on,
It doesn't matter.
okay.
If
See,
I
nobody even cares what I think.
Hell no, we don't.
Yeah, I said you didn't care.
again, if we have an
You don't
instance
even
where
have to travel, it's right up the street for you.
commission members that have, I mean, we always have the teleconference option. Even if we have 3 members here and someone needs to dial in, that is completely acceptable.
How would you handle that in here?
How would we handle
Yeah, put a phone call, you got a phone there?
our audio system? I just sit here and I dial the number.
You'll do it in here and everything.
Yes, we will still publicly notice where the meeting will be held, so if anyone from the public would like to join, Ressa is usually here, Ressa or
Well,
Wendy.
right now, we're set for April, whatever it is,
2nd or the 5th.
yeah, something.
Most of our days are the twos and fives. Yes. We are scheduled. Is it the 6th? Is it? Okay.
Why don't we do this?
That's the day after
Why
Easter.
don't we agree to at least, Howard, visit a week or so ahead of time to see what kind of business we've got? And you can, then we can have a vote by email or whatever about whether to hold a meeting or not.
Yes, I meet with Ms. Baird monthly, and we review what we have as far as the complaint report, because we still have to maintain the 180
Right,
days.
right.
And the commission does have the once a quarter meeting requirement, so we
Right.
have to be cognizant of both of those pieces. But
But
always.
we've done it for this month. We've had 2 meetings in this quarter, so we're all right on that.
Just reminding of all the little nuances of
right.
what we have. And we'll have to change the public calendar on the website if we decide to change, especially
I'm
on a-
not saying we change it now,
Yeah,
but
on a
if
go
this is
forward.
gonna be a persistent, ongoing problem, then I would suggest that we take a look at it.
The parking I reserved week and a half in advance, and they came back and sent me an email and said, sorry.
I like it's gonna be that way for the next 2 or 3 meetings anyway.
Bobby made a motion to adjourn and
Second.
it's second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Get up. Thank you, Howard, good job.